keeping the Greeks in and the yields down, at the cost of making a quarter of Greeks unemployed and destroying nearly a third of the country's GDP. Consequently, Greece is now just 1.7% of the Eurozone, and the standoff of the past few months has been over tax and spending mixes of a few billion euros. Why then was there no deal for Greece, especially when the IMF's own research has said that these policies are at best counterproductive? And how has such a small economy managed to generate such a mortal threat to the euro? Part of the story, as we wrote in January, was the political risk that Syriza presented, which threatened to embolden other anti-creditor coalitions across Europe, such as Podemos in Spain. But another part lay in what the European elites buried deep within their supposed bailouts for Greece. Namely, the bailouts weren't for Greece at all. They were bailouts on the quiet for Europe's big banks. And taxpayers in core countries are now being stuck with the bill, since the Greeks have refused to pay. It is this hidden game that lies at the heart of Greece's decision to say no, and Europe's inability to solve the problem. Greece was given two bailouts. The first lasted from May 2010 through June 2013 and consisted of a €30 billion standby agreement from the IMF and €80 billion in bilateral loans from other EU governments. The second lasted from 2012 until the end of 2014. In practice, it lasted until a few days ago and comprised another €19.8 billion from the IMF and another €144.7 billion dispersed from an entity set up in late 2010 called the European Financial Stability Facility, EFSF, now the European Stability Mechanism, ESM. Not all of these funds were dispersed. The final figure, loaned to Greece, was around €230 billion. The EFSF was a company the EU set up in Luxembourg to preserve financial stability in Europe's economic and monetary union by issuing bonds to the tune of €440 billion that would generate loans to countries in trouble. So what did they do with that funding? They raised bonds to bail Greece's creditors, the banks of France and Germany mainly, via loans to Greece. Greece was thus a mere conduit for a bailout. It was not a recipient in any significant way, despite what is constantly repeated in the media. Of the roughly €230 billion disbursed to Greece, it is estimated that only $27 billion went toward keeping the Greek state running. Indeed, by 2013, Greece was running a surplus and did not need such financing. Accordingly, 65% of the loans to Greece went straight through Greece to core banks for interest payments, maturing debt, and for domestic bank recapitalization demanded by the lenders. By another accounting, 90% of the loans to Greece bypassed Greece entirely. Telling though those numbers are, they still miss the fact that after Mario Draghi took over from Jean-Claude Trichet at the ECB in late 2011, Draghi dumped around €1.2 trillion of public money into the European banking system to bring down yields in the long-term refinancing operations, LTROs. Bond yields went down and bond prices soon went up. This delighted bondholders, who got to sell their now LTRO-boosted bonds back to the governments that had just bailed them out. In March 2012, the Greek government, under the auspices of the Troika, launched a buyback scheme that bought out creditors, private and national central banks, at a 53.4% discount to the face value of the bond. In doing so, €164 billion of debt was handed over from the private sector to the EFSF. That debt now sits in the successor facility to the EFSF, the European Stability Mechanism, where it causes much instability. So if we want to understand why the combined powers of the Eurozone can't deal